Recording. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so hello and welcome to the FDMS special topic, work queue and managing assignments. We're going to be talking today about documents and dockets and how to assign them to different users and how to efficiently kind of work with statuses and different ways to establish a protocol for working with your different comments and documents. So my name's Heidi Griffith. I'm one of the FDMS training specialists. I'm being assisted today here by Grant Spencer. Jacqueline just was here for a minute ago, but she decided that she did have something else she needed to work on. So it's just going to be me and Grant today. So for those of you that are already using the work queue, you're going to be the boots on the ground. And if you want to add any advice or you wish someone had maybe told you when you were first starting out using the work queue, please chime in using the chat, or when I ask for questions, feel free to come off mute and speak up and not offend me in the least. We're all here to learn. In fact, Grant and I learn things all the time from users, which we really appreciate. We adjust our sessions and we adjust our slides a lot of times depending on what someone has said or asked in training. So training questions and scenarios and comments are incredibly important to us, and we really enjoy interacting with our audience. So please feel free to ask questions. And speaking of that, the way that we're going to take questions today, two ways. First of all, by utilizing the chat, the Zoom chat feature, which can be accessed at the bottom of the Zoom window. There is a chat icon, and if you click on it, you're going to get a pop-up window and you can type your questions and comments in there. And if you select everyone from the drop-down menu, everyone who's here will be able to see your comment or question. But if you have something that you'd just like to ask privately, please choose Grant Spencer from your list, because Grant's going to be monitoring the questions. And I will have my chat open over here on another screen, but I won't be watching it all the time. We also want you to feel free to come off of mute and ask questions. There are very many of us here today, so we're going to be very flexible, and we want this to be very meaningful for everyone here. So please feel free to come off of mute and ask questions. The chances of Grant and I being able to not access the internet at the same time are very slim. So, but just in case, if both of us are gone, then you will be routed back to the waiting room, and that way you can just wait for a few minutes. And if we're not back within 5 minutes, just like in college when that professor didn't show up, you can go ahead and log off, and then we will get a hold of you via email with an explanation of what happened and also an alternate plan. But we hope that will not happen. But just in case, we always like to have a plan B. I am going to go ahead and turn off my camera right now just to save a little bit of bandwidth. So I'm going to stop my video. Although I am proud of my flowers in the background. Those are my flowers that I don't know if I grew them because they're wildflowers, but I do have them at the bank, on the bank of the house that we have in Fairmont, West Virginia at the river. So they're not lilies, as Grant asked me. They are actually black-eyed Susans, part of the daisy family.
Flowers are beautiful, Heidi.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it. Okay, so I just want to touch briefly on the objectives of today's session. We will be exploring the work queue and the process for making assignments using it and other features of FDMS that help users to efficiently and effectively manage those assignments. So if you are new, we want to make sure you're comfortable with the features before you leave today. Some of you who may not even have this feature enabled yet, as far as the work queue goes. And so we are going to go through it kind of slowly and methodically. And then if you don't have it and it's something that you would like to have enabled for your agency, it is something that the FDMS help desk can enable for you. That request would need to come from an agency administrator. So if you're not the agency administrator, you'd have to get a hold of one of them. But that work queue it's a little complex and confusing at first. And so, like I said, I'll be going kind of slowly, and I thank you in advance for your patience. So our agenda today will include first going over some terminology that we need to add to our FDMS vocabulary word bank. So we're going to be talking about assignments versus permissions. What's the difference between an active and inactive status? That's something else that we're going to discuss. What documents are going to show up in the work queue and in the documents tab of the inbox, and how do they get there? How are they routed there? What's the criteria used to get them to those two locations. So we'll be going over the definitions of these terms and see how they're integrated into FDMS. Topic 2 will be the actual work queue. What's the work queue? How can we use it to make our experience in FDMS more efficient? Some of you may not have ever seen the work queue because since your agency doesn't have it turned on, but I do think that it's going to be worthwhile just to look at it and see how it can be helpful in organizing your workflow for your users within FDMS. Topics 3 and 4 kind of go hand in hand. Topic 3 will be the docket management and assignments. So what do we mean when I talk about managing dockets and documents? I'm talking about not only assigning those dockets to specific FDMS users so that they can show up in their inboxes and also so those users can have access to certain features such as the bulk extract, but I'm also talking about how we assign documents as well based on perhaps status and how we move those documents or comments sometimes through the different statuses. That's what I mean by when I say managing. We don't have everyone having the same assignments all the time in FDMS. We can customize the assignments of specific dockets as needed. That's where you're going to see the flexibility of FDMS kind of in action today. And then you're also in topic 4 going to see how assignments can also be determined on an individual document basis or on a documents or group of documents statuses. So I'm going to explain what that means, how to make those assignments and how to manage those. Topic 5 is going to be a more in-depth explanation of the inbox and its 2 tabs. Most of you probably have noticed that there are 2 tabs, but a lot of people just work in the dockets tab, and the documents tab is helpful too, even if you don't have the work queue. However, how does the work queue and then how does the assignments tab, how do those 2 things impact the inbox? We're going to explore that today. As always, I like to end the session with a review of where you can go for support if you need it. Might seem like a little bit of an ambitious agenda, but I know we're going to be able to get it started or get it. Well, I know we're going to be able to get through it if we can just get started. So we're going to go ahead and do that. The first slide here has some key terms and concepts that we're going to be looking at. We're going to talk about the difference between assignments and permissions. So what do these 2 terms mean? These are terms that sometimes I hear used interchangeably when people are referring to FDMS, and they can sound familiar in their meanings, but there are some nuances that actually differentiate them. So let's start talking about assignments first. What is an assignment? An assignment is actually a designation that indicates that the FDMS user or a FDMS user is the owner, or they could be a member of a group which is the owner of a docket or a document. So the assignment answers the question, who is going to get this docket or document in their inbox tabs? And it's important because there's certain functionality within FDMS that's only available to certain owners of dockets. So if you're not an owner, there are some things you can't actually access. You don't have permission. We're going to talk about that in a second. It's also important that the dockets and documents are assigned in a strategic way to maximize your agency's workflow so that you don't have people working in the same comment at the same time and kind of stumbling over each other in the virtual world without even knowing it. It's also important that the dockets and documents are assigned in a strategic way so that we don't overload one user over another, because sometimes that's hard to tell, especially in a very large agency. Some agencies' workflows are really simplistic, and one person will own the docket and everything within it, and they're doing all the managing within it. And then there are larger agencies that have a much more complex workflow, especially if, like EPA or FDA, you may have many users working within the same docket in different roles. So the assignments functionality can aid in organizing that workflow when there are multiple users in various roles working within one docket. So just remember, assignment equals ownership equals inbox. That's kind of how I try to keep that in mind. And with ownership, then, if it's in your inbox, it comes with certain rights or permissions. So permissions equals rights. So what are permissions or the permissions within FDMS? Permissions actually grant users the right to access specific features within the docket. So the ability to access or initiate actions within FDMS is what we mean by permissions. So what if you, as a user, this is a little example, you need to run what's called a bulk extract because you need to access comments to work with them outside of FDMS. Some agencies need us to download the files of the documents or the comments for them. So if you need to do that, but you're not the assigned or owner of a docket in which those comments are housed, what do? Because you will not have permission to access that bulk extract feature if the docket's not assigned to you, or if you're not a part of a group to which the docket's assigned. You're not even going to see that place where you can initiate it. That action won't be in your view when you go to look for it. So if you do not have that permission to access that bulk extract feature, if that docket's not assigned to you, what would you do? You'd have to make sure that you were the assigned docket manager or a member of the assigned docket manager, and you can change that on a docket by docket basis. So that's the difference there between permissions and assignments. Now, every user does have permission to search for and locate and access all dockets and documents within them. So I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that you are able to do that. I'm going to show you next a graphic to make sure that the distinction between assigned docket managers and assigned rule writers and just plain docket managers and plain docket, rule writers, what their roles are and how they are different. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide here. And on this graphic, I've got the definition here of what an assigned docket manager is. That's a formal assignment given to a user or a group of users, could be a group, which includes special permissions within the docket, such as deduplication and bulk extract features. So just so you can get some context, let's look at the permissions of assigned docket manager, which is everything within the bubble, including everything in white, but also everything in purple. The docket manager who is not assigned to the docket down here, the docket manager who's not assigned to the docket can work within it, but they don't own the docket. So they can go into the docket. They're able to add and manage the docket. So they could change the assignments if needed of the docket and the documents. They can post to regulations.gov. They can add documents. They have all those other abilities, but what they cannot do is what's here in the purple. So the assigned docket manager, in addition to all the permissions that are listed in the white circle, also have access to the features in the purple circle, such as being able to initiate deduplication and bulk extract functions. So you can see that in addition to being able to do all the things here, they can also do these up here as well. So they just have more permissions when they are the assigned docket manager. And that's kind of how assignments and permissions work together. So if you do not see the option to run a bulk extract, or you don't have access to initiate a deduplication report, to run one when you log into FDMS, then you're not the assigned manager for that docket. But the good news is that it can be updated on a docket by docket basis, and I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to stop there, take a breath, and ask if that kind of explains the difference between permissions and assignments, and also the major differences between just being a docket manager and having the assigned docket manager distinction.
Heidi, I don't see any comments or questions in the chat so far. It does sound to me like the assigned docket manager maybe has a little more work to do.
Absolutely, they do. They have, we don't look at it that way, Grant, not more work, but just more permissions to do more things. So just makes their job a little more elevated. How about that?
Exactly, yeah.
Can I go ahead and if you have access to the chat, just so I have an idea of the audience that I'm seeing here, and I do know I see you have someone here from eRulemaking PMO, which we always love to have them in our sessions. But if you are in a large agency or a small agency, what you would consider to be a large agency or a small agency, could you just put that into the chat or come off mute and let us know, just so I have an idea of my audience? Large, okay. Kelly's in a large agency. And I do have a guest here who is here on a phone. I'm not sure, that might be Patricia. You might be in here on your phone and as a guest. Is that true? Or do we have another person? Uh-oh, we lost our phone person.
Just hung up, yeah.
They hung up. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, but that might be Patricia there. All right. Well, I hated to scare someone off. Didn't mean to do that, but I was just going to make sure that if they came in and they're not, and they don't have their name beside their phone number, we can't get them a certificate. We want to make sure everybody gets a certificate. All right. So you may be asking yourself, like, how are these dockets even assigned? How's that happening? And dockets can be assigned when they're created. There's something called the assignments template or templates. And we're gonna, those are selected at the docket creation. So when we go in and create a docket, we're gonna look at that. And that predetermines which user or group of users gets the docket in their inbox automatically when a docket's created. And so some agencies have FDMS configured so whoever creates the docket is the person who has automatic ownership over it, and it appears in their inbox kind of by default. But other agencies have different assignment template options that give specific types of dockets to specific users. So that is something that is actually created when an agency is onboarded. And for some agencies, that might have been quite a while ago. And the only way to see which users are listed on each of the assignment templates is for you to contact our help desk and ask for that information. They can send you a list that says, if for your default assignments template, Grant Spencer is the assigned docket manager, Heidi Griffith is the assigned rule writer, and so on and so forth for the different statuses. But you can't see that information for yourself. So I think it is a good idea for your agency administrator to maybe go ahead and request that every once in a while. And that way, if it needs to be updated or changed, because people do retire or go to different jobs, that can be the most accurate that it can be. You can also add assignment templates. Like if you're in a very large agency, you might have one that's called Eastern, like ER for Eastern Region. And if it's the Eastern Region, then the Eastern Region dockets that are created will have a specific assigned docket manager or group, and the same with the rule writers. And that way you don't have to go in and change those when you create the docket or after you create the docket. Now it'll make more sense when we go in and look at that. So the creator of the docket can leave assignments that are made by the assignments template as they are, like as they default, or sometimes a user will need to reassign the docket to a different user or group. And they can do that through our second option here, which is the assignment template, or excuse me, the assignment tab. And the assignment tab is located at the docket list level. Most of the time when we have user training, we are really just looking at the details tab at the docket list level. But today we're going to be looking at the assignments tab. It's the second tab over. And that assignments tab, whatever we set there in the assignments tab, it also is inherited by all the documents within the docket. So I'll explain that more when we get to it where you can see it. But whatever we set there is also true for the inside of the docket as well. So no matter what the docket type is, whether it's comment, supporting related materials document, or maybe those other documents some agencies have, all of them are going to have the same assignments within the docket that are set at the docket list level. And they can be changed at the individual document level as well. And I'll show you how to do that. But whatever is set at that docket level translates initially to everything within the docket until that assignment's changed. Okay. So please remember that even if a user is not assigned a docket, it's not in your inbox. That's okay, because all users will still be able to access all dockets and all of the content within the docket for your entire agency. They may have to search for it and locate the docket, but it is available. I know there used to be a way, if you've been in FDMS for a long time, in a previous version, there was a way to restrict dockets. So only certain users had the ability to access them. They only had permission to access them if they were given it by, I guess, an agency administrator, but that's no longer the case. All FDMS, or excuse me, in FDMS 5, all users have access to all agency dockets and everything in them, at least at a read-only permissions basis, if you're an agency viewer, for example. And then depending on your user role, whether you're a docket manager, an agency administrator, or a rule writer, and your assignment, whether you're the assigned docket manager or assigned rule writer, they will have additional access to features above the read-only permission. So I just want to make sure that I mention that as caveat before we move on, because it is kind of a misnomer that a lot of people have, that if I can't see it in my inbox, I can't work in it, and that's not true. So just want to make sure. Okay, so now we're going to move on talking about a different set of vocabulary. I want to talk about document statuses in a different way than we've talked about them before in the user role-based training sessions. Ugh, hold on one second, got to get a drink. Ooh, sorry about that.
Everybody, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat for us so we can all see them.
All right. So most of you are probably familiar with the basic default document statuses, some of which are listed here, such as in review, draft, deferred, pending post, do not post, posted, and withdrawn. There are some others I know I've seen. For example, I've seen redacted as a status. I've seen pre-FDMS as a status, and those are active statuses, as well as in review, draft, deferred, and pending post. But the way that you can distinguish between an active status and an inactive status, besides just memorizing the list, is that you can ask yourself the question, will this status, or can this status eventually lead to being posted on regulations.gov? Not will it, but can it? If it can eventually lead to being posted on regulations.gov, then it is an active status. If it's not going to lead to being possibly posted on regulations.gov, then it is not active. So let me give you some examples here. For example, if a document, and remember, document's the umbrella term for all the document types in FDMS, including comments. So if a comment is in the in review or draft status and a user reviews it and then they move it to a deferred status, it's still in an active status. So it started in an active status as in review, and then it stayed in an active status when it went to deferred, because it could still end up being posted to regulations.gov. The same is true if you move that same comment into a pending post status. Pending post status means that it's probably going to end up being posted to regulations.gov. So it's definitely an active status. So how does it turn into an inactive status? The inactive status simply means that document's not in a position to be posted to regulations.gov. So an example here, a do not post, for example, it would be inactive because it's not going to be posted. It says it in its name. So it's pretty much speaks for itself. It's going to be inactive because it's never going to get posted because it's been put into that status. We will not be posting that document on regulations.gov for whatever reason, because it didn't meet our agency's criteria to be posted. Perhaps it's got PII or profanity. And those policies are different for every agency as to why it might be put into a do not post status. But like for my agency, we don't post comments if they have profanity in them. So they're put into a do not post status, and that means that we're going to house the comments forever in FDMS without putting them out for the public to see on regulations.gov. A withdrawn status means the document was posted on regulations.gov, but now it's been taken down, it's been withdrawn. So again, it's not going to be reposted. And a reason for withdrawing a comment could be maybe a submitter had a change of heart. They contacted the agency and requested that their comment be withdrawn. And so once it's withdrawn, it would not be reposted. So these inactive status documents don't go away. They're either already posted, as in posted, or they're not going to be posted because they don't meet our criteria, or they have been withdrawn and won't be reposted. So the distinction of this inactive and active status that's going to be really important when we're looking at the documents tab in the inbox, and also when we're looking at the work queue. So I wanted to make sure I touched on those and that those are clear, the distinction between those. So do I have any questions on those?
I don't see anything in the chat yet, Heidi.
All right, thank you very much. Just remember, if you are in the meeting, which all of you are, if you have your name and it just says your first name or it's a phone number, I want to make sure I can get everyone their certificate and also the slides and the recording. So if you are able to go in and change your name, or at some point during the presentation, come off of mute and make sure that we know who you are so that we can get that information to you, I would appreciate that. You can send it
Also,
to,
Heidi, they could direct message me within the chat, Alicia and Susan, if you would, and just let me know your last name and email address so I can match you up.
awesome, thank you. All right, so let's talk about this work queue. Some agencies don't utilize the work queue, and it has to be turned on via the help desk request. And that's only available, and the request can only come from an agency administrator. And the work queue is only visible to agency administrators and docket managers on their homepage menu. So if you are an agency administrator or a docket manager and you don't see the work queue option in the homepage menu on the left side of the screen, that means it's not turned on for your agency. So just be aware of that. If you're a rule writer or an agency viewer, you're not going to see that even if it is turned on, because you don't have permission to view it. So that's a great example of when permissions come into play. What the work queue does is allow docket managers and agency administrators to make assignments or reassign dockets and documents from one location, multiple dockets and documents from one location. It's a way to manage your staff's workload efficiently and distribute work more evenly among staff, especially if it's a large agency. And allows you as a user to have this bird's eye view of what everyone's working on so that you can make fair and informed decisions about work distribution. So if your agency has this large workload and a lot of different users that work's distributed among, then the work queue can be very helpful for you. Let me just give you an example here. So why could the work queue be important? The example I'm going to use is that I'm a docket manager and I have 100 documents, and I really like to use just very simplistic numbers just for my own mind so I can figure the math out. Grant somebody's going to take over this session. He's going to use 1,243 and he'll be able to distribute that evenly. But I, on the other hand, I'm just going to work with 100.
Don't forget about the fractions.
Oh my gosh, no fractions, please. All right, so I have this 100 documents. In this case, they are comments, and I need to assign them to the docket staff of my agency. But the people who are my workers, who are going to be reviewing these documents, they don't just work for me. They work for all the people, all the different docket managers. And so an example of who those people are is you've got Sherry here on the left, and you've got Jeanette on the right, and they are both excellent workers. They both have equal skill sets, and they're both efficient. But how can I distribute the work fairly to them? Should I just give them each 50 documents to review? Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you think that I should just give them each 50. Nobody. Okay. Well, I could give them each 50 and assume that that's fair. But if I look at the work queue and I use the work queue, I can check out how many assignments they already have. So when I do that, I'll see that Sherry already has 50 documents that are assigned to her, and Jeanette already has 10. So when my 100 go out, if I gave 50 to Sherry and 50 to Jeanette, the work would become even more unfair, because then Sherry's going to have 100 and Jeanette's going to have 60. So if I wanted to fairly distribute those, Grant, what would be a good way to fairly distribute the 100 that I have?
I'm sorry, I was direct messaging with somebody.
No problem. No problem. But if I had 100 and Sherry's already got 50 and Jeanette's got 10, how can I evenly distribute my 100 documents to each of them?
Well, you want them both to have 80 because there's 160 total documents. So you want to bring the 50 up by 30, and you want to bring the person with 10 up to 7.
Love it. Love it. That's why I love having him here, because he can help me do the math and I don't have to try to do it in my head. And so if we do that, we now have a truly balanced workload. So the work queue does give the agency administrator or docket manager that big picture view of the entire agency's staff workload. And it's especially important, as I said, for those larger agencies, EPA, FDA, DOT, all of you, DOD, anybody who's in a large agency and who are working especially too in multiple dockets at the same time. This would help the agency administrator and docket managers to manage the assignments more equally and more efficiently from one location. All right, so some of the roles that in context of the work queue and the assignments, The slides are not as detailed as the ones that we use for the user role training because we're only going to refer today to how those user roles are impacted when we do work with the work queue and managing assignments. So which user roles can perform which functions. You can see here that I've put the agency administrator and the assigned docket managers on the same slide because as far as the work queue and making assignments, they have the same permissions. Agency administrators and assigned docket managers have access to the work queue and the assignments tab. And I'll be showing you this special tab found at the docket list level outside the docket structure when we go live into FDMS. And you're going to see how that assignments tab can assist you in managing assignments, even if you don't have access to the work queue. So we are going to look at some other options. By default, that agency administrator will have the ability to run the bulk extract and deduplication features because admins don't really have to, they do have all the assignments or all the dockets assigned to them automatically. Assigned docket managers, though, would have that permission to run the bulk extract and the deduplication report because that docket is assigned to them. Whereas the docket managers who are not assigned the docket can still access the work queue. They can manage dockets and document assignments using that assignments tab. But since they're not the assigned docket manager, they're not going to see the option to run the bulk extract or the deduplication reports. They can receive the information from those reports, but they just can't initiate them. I am going to show you today how to change the ownership or assignment on a docket by docket basis if somebody does need, if a docket manager does need to run one of those reports, they can change the ownership and then change it back. So there is like a little workaround that I can show you. As far as rule writers and docket staff's permissions go, they can manage assignments only at the document level. They can't at the docket level. They don't have access to the work queue. They don't have access to the assignments tab. They can receive documents in their inbox if they are assigned to them by the agency administrator or a docket manager. And what is assigned to them by docket managers and agency administrators through the work queue will also show up in their inbox. So that inbox is pretty important. The inbox will not include any documents that are in an inactive status because it's a workspace. So just keep in mind that the inbox is a workspace for all users in FDMS. Now, rule writers and docket staff, they can still search and find any docket or document in FDMS. Actually, so can agency viewers. The only difference is whether they have to search for it as far as the rule writers and docket staff, or whether it's been assigned to them and appears in their inbox. They can also receive bulk extract and deduplication reports from the agency administrator or the assigned docket manager. Of course, agency viewers don't have access to the work queue or the assignments tab. They only have the ability to view dockets and documents within FDMS and cannot be assigned dockets or documents since they don't have that inbox. They can only search for those dockets and documents using the search bar. They can receive bulk extract and deduplication reports from agency admins or assigned docket managers via email if they need them. So that's something that is important too. All right, any questions on the user roles right now?
I don't see any in the chat, Heidi, but I got a quick question. The agency viewer, like, can you give me an example of who that might be that would need access to that kind of information, but not actually want to do any work in FDMS?
Sure, absolutely I can. So the agency viewers sometimes would be maybe executives in that agency, maybe attorneys or contractors. If a specific example would be if I have comments in the do not post status because maybe there's a threat in it, there's something that's bad in it, and the attorney needs to get in there and they need to read it or look at the documentation, they can get in and view that. So there are reasons that some users wouldn't need just the agency viewer role and permissions, just the read-only permission.
That
And
makes
that's
sense.
one of the reasons I can think of off the top of my head.
That makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. That's a great question. All right, we are now going to jump into a live demonstration. If you give me just a second here to change my, just going to change my view, do a new share here. And you guys give me a thumbs up if you can see my FDMS login. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, I am going to log in today as an agency admin. So I'm now going to be at the home page for FTMS. I'm knocking stuff over here. If you hear that or not. Okay, so here I am on my home page. The first thing I do want to point out, I like to point this out in all of our training sessions, is the training resource section. This is where you can find webcasts, and we have most of these are current. They have been updated within the last year. We are constantly going through and updating them as they come out. We do have some quick reference guides that we're adding to how to create a docket quick guide and the how to move the FR document quick guide are two new ones that we do have here. And then a user guides for the docket managers, agency administrators. This is for the admin module. If you're an agency administrator, it's a different system. Docket manager guide is also for agency administrators. It's just the guide to FDMS, rule writer, agency viewer guide. And then we do have some additional references just about rulemaking in general. So this is a very important place to look for information. Also at the bottom of the page, we have a link to regulations.gov, which is handy. We have a glossary, which will explain the different fields that are within the dockets and the documents and any additional FDMS terminology. We have a frequently asked questions page that we're always adding to. I don't like that it has 31, that number. I feel like it should have 30 or 35. So we have to add some more to that soon. We also have the ability at the bottom of the page for you to contact us. And this is where you can go to submit a ticket to our help desk. And then we also have an email address you can use. I'll be giving that to you on the last slide today when we end this session. So I just wanted to kind of point those things out to you. All right, let's go back to the FDMS homepage. And here we go. All right, so the search bar, I want to point out because the search bar is where rule writers and agency viewers, a lot of times if they, and even docket managers, anyone who doesn't have all of the, a docket, a specific docket assigned to them, they don't see it in their inbox, but they need to locate it. The search options are very helpful to kind of narrow down what you're looking for. You can search by rulemaking or non-rulemaking dockets. If you have subtypes, I don't have any in my agency, and so that's not something that I can show you, but if you have subtypes, you can search, narrow down the search by subtypes. If you add the RIN, you'll find that specific docket. And then maybe when it was created, there'll be a range you can do. But one of the important things I like to point out to people is that it's only going to show you the first 100 by default. So if you want to see all the dockets, for example, or 10,000 up to 10,000 dockets, then you would need to change the number of results to display. So then I'm going to search, and this should show me up to 10,000, and I only have 751 dockets in my agency, but now I see every single docket in my agency, and I am able to access any of them, and I am able to use my docket structure icon to go inside any of them and to view, at least view, all of the documents within. Now, if you needed to see an actual document, make sure that you go in and you change this search option because it does default to looking for dockets, and then it gives you some other options. And it would also go back to 100. So if you needed to make that number higher so that you can find more to have options from, that is an option as well. So I'm going to clear that out and change it back to looking for dockets. Any questions right now? That's just a real quick explanation of the search options drop-down menu.
No, just to be clear, you said every role will have that ability to search for anything in there.
Yep, every role will be able to just use the magnifying glass, and if they raise this to 10,000, they'll be able to see 10,000 at a time. And it will go all the way back to the beginning. This is the very first docket that was ever created in my agency. And so let's say I had 10,100. That's not going to show me those last 100, the most recent 100. So what I can do then is do a second search, and I would actually go down to the bottom to the very last one that was created for me, which would have been yesterday, I think. So this would have been, sorry, let me go back here to my list. I would go to the most recently created, which would have been on 1/9/24. So what I could do is I could actually go in and enter date, select created date, and then enter 1/9/2024, and then today's date, let's just, the 11th. And then I can find the additional however many I need to see. And you may have to do that multiple times depending on how many dockets you have inside your document or inside your agency. But I did have that question once because I was showing this example. Of course, I only have 751. And someone said, well, what if my agency has 11,000? And I was like, I don't know. So I had to go find the answer to that. And the answer was that you can do the initial search, find the last date that something was created in your initial search, take that date, and then add it into the date created, and then the date today, leave your results to display 10,000, and then do another search. So for mine, it would be from the 9th until today, and then search again. And of course, I'm only coming up with 2, but that agency might come up with another 1,000 or so here.
So basically, that's a limitation of the system there. It can only show at 10,000 at a time, but it does have access to others, just not at the same time.
Exactly. So that's the workaround that you can use. Yep. And I can, if you need me to show you that again at the end of the session, I'll be glad to go back over that again if you have more than 10,000. A lot of agencies don't have that many. All right, so we are still on the home screen. I'm going to go ahead and, I want to be back on the home screen, so I'm going to go ahead and use the FDMS logo to get back to the home screen. I can use either the FDMS logo or the home icon to get back here anytime. I can also collapse this menu if I want a little more room. Right now, what I'm going to focus on is the inbox. So the inbox has 2 numbers. The first number, if you hover over it, it will show you that means 335 dockets have been assigned to me, and I have 168 documents assigned to me. If I click on the number of dockets, it's going to give me the dockets tab, which I think a lot of people work in, but we also have a documents tab. And the documents tab is going to have documents from different dockets. So if I look here, if I start at the top, train 2020-16-0101. So this is the 101st docket created in 2016 by the train agency. And if I use the up and down arrows to go to the last one, then I can also see that I have documents here from the 2023, the 41st docket of 2023 that's been created. All of these, no matter where I go, are all going to have that draft indicator. The reason they're going to have a draft indicator is that they are not currently posted. All right, so they are, some of them here are in review, and I can sort by status. So some of them are in draft, some are in review, some are in pending post. I could also have ones here that are in do not post. That's possible because they're still in the system and they would have the draft indicator. But the reason that I don't have anything in here that's posted or withdrawn is because I shouldn't be working with those. Those are inactive statuses. So you're not going to see inactive statuses here, with the exception of the do not post if it is actually assigned to you. But most people won't see the do not posts either. But they are from all different types of dockets. It's not from the same docket. So the inbox is a great workspace for me. I can access all of the same tabs here for this document as I could if I looked inside the docket and went to the individual document. Right, so that's what the documents tab is. It includes all of the documents that have been assigned to me for me to work on, and I can easily get to them, and I have all the same permissions and all the same abilities to work within them as I would if I was inside of the docket. We also have under the inbox, you might be a member of the FR feed group. You may not. That has to do with moving that FR document into a docket. And then you may or may not have the work queue. So that's one of the things that we're going to look at today and spend some time in is the work queue. And these may have been assigned to me through the work queue. So let's look and see what it is. Okay, so the work queue does not have a docket tab. It only has documents tabs. And these are all the documents that are currently assigned to me. Okay, they're in currently in the, excuse me, these are all the ones that are currently in the dockets that are assigned to me. Let me be specific. These are all the documents that are in the dockets that are assigned to me. And so I'm going to see, you know, there's ones from 2023 in here. There are documents from 2022. There are documents from all the way down to 2016. So I've got an array of dockets with active documents in them. And you're only going to see active documents here. Okay. As I move across the work queue documents tab columns, it looks a lot like the inbox. So pop back to my inbox just for a second so you can compare. So it looks a lot like my inbox. I can see the ID, the title, the type of document it is, what its status is, whether it has attachments and how many, whether it was when it was received or modified, and then if it has a subtype. If I go into my work queue documents tab, I can see all that same information, but I also get to see the current assignee. And I can also see documents that have no assignee and the ones that are assigned to rule writer Heidi Griffith. And I am not, today I am agency administrator Heidi Griffith, so I'm not the rule writer here. And I have some that haven't been assigned and some that say null because they're not assigned either. So I need to be able to tell how many of these documents are assigned to certain users. And that's where the Document Center tab comes in. So I'm going to select a specific document. I'll go all the way to the bottom here. I'm going to select this one. And you'll see, I'm going to go ahead and just show you that you have the same tabs here that you would have if you were inside the docket or if you were in your inbox. You have the Details tab, the Optional Details tab, the Submitter Info tab, and the Attachments tab. These are just like the ones that are in your inbox, just like the ones that are inside the docket structure. But you also have this Document Center tab, and the Document Center tab is what makes the work queue special. The work queue in the Document Center, you're going to have a table, and this table is going to be where you're going to do some of your work. And I want to make sure that you take the time, and I'm one of these people who really doesn't take the time generally to read tooltips or little information icons, but this information icon is really, really important. And this information icon, when I read it, says, and I'm going to read it to you because it's, like I said, it's super important. It says, table shows counts of current document assignments for dockets where you are the assigned docket manager, meaning me, and the total count of document assignments from all dockets, whether I'm the docket manager or not. It's going to include the one, it's going to include the ones that I am a docket manager of, but all of the others as well. I can select one or more documents from my list over here. The user group I would like, user or group that I'd like to reassign them to, and then click the assign button, which will be here once I select who it's going to be given to. And it is recommended that you limit the number of reassignments to no more than 50 at a time. So right now our capacity is to do this 50 at a time. So you don't want to try to, you don't want to overload the system by trying to move too many at once. But let me show you an example of how that's going to work. So I have a bunch of assigned documents here, because these are documents that are assigned to Charles Brandon. And Charles is going to be going on vacation. And so I don't want him to have these assignments in his inbox because he hasn't gotten them done. And he's not going to get them done because he's going out of town. So I've selected all of the ones that are assigned currently to Charles Brandon. That's 13. And then I have my user group over here where I can look. And again, I read this to you because this says my dockets and all dockets. And that is not what's shown here. It's not a docket assignment. It's documents. So right now, currently, Gary Williams has 0 assignments, 0 documents assigned to him from my dockets, and only 1 document assigned to him from all the dockets in all of my agency. Whereas, this is me, but Heidi Griffith, the agency administrator, has none assigned to her of mine, but she has 132 of all the dockets. So if I could cover this up and not let you see it, then you would only be able to go, to go by what you see here. And I would be like, oh, I'm just going to give those 13 to Heidi because she doesn't have any. But in reality, Heidi has 132. So I just want to be really careful that I don't overload one person. Same thing with Jacqueline Loss, my docket manager. Doesn't look like she has anything, but she actually has 258. So if I'm going to distribute my work evenly, I might come in here and actually add those to Craig Lewis, who doesn't have any. He's real not busy at all. And I'm going to assign them to him. So I'm going to click on assign to him. And as soon as it's done saving, then all of those 13, which it'll show here, like, because every number that's in the my dockets is also going to be added into the all dockets. That's why it's 13 and 13. Now those will show up in his inbox, and it's changed very quickly so I can see who the current assignee is here. So let me try that again. So again, Heidi Griffith, a rule writer. She is, let's see here, go down here. Oh my goodness, she is overloaded. I'm going to take a bunch of hers, 255 of them. Because she has 500, let's say. I don't know how many she has. Yeah, she does. She has 589. So I'm going to take that many of hers. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let me go back here. Grab it here. Take a bunch of hers. 331. And I'm going to now assign those to Julia because Julia doesn't have any. So I'm going to assign them to her. They will come out of Heidi's inbox. And then they will go in to Julia's. And this will change here very quickly. And remember when I said you were supposed to do more than 50 at a time? This is why. Because if you do, it could time out before you get them all done. So that's a possibility that I messed up majorly because I shouldn't have done that. So let me see what I can do. So I can follow my own rules here. Okay, so I'm going to get back into the work queue. Okay, and it didn't change them because I interrupted the action. Or maybe it did. Oh yeah, it did. It did change them. But anyway, what I wanted to show you was how you can take multiple documents at one time, up to 50. Do as I say, not as I do, and then reassign them to a different user. The other thing that I can do is I could assign them to myself. So if I go way down here and I actually want to show you, so I have 168 documents right now in my inbox, but if I take 19, 20, okay, if I take these 20 and I assign them to myself, then my inbox is going to increase by 20 as soon as that action is completed. So you can not only assign them to others, but you can also assign them to yourself. Okay, and it will not change right here right away, but it will change under my documents. And I think what I've done is I've taken a few of them out and now I'm adding a few of them back in. So that number is going to catch up as soon as it's all as soon as the system gets done processing everything. So once I assign them to myself, that number will go up. I want to see if it did. Yeah, because I took some of them out and then put some more in. All right. In the other thing that you can do from the work queue, so if you are actually in the work queue and you're working and you have, especially if you're a docket manager and you see a bunch that are in pending post and you know that in your agency, if somebody puts something in pending post, then they are saying that it's ready to be processed and posted. So I could select all of them here, and I can also work from the kebab menu and do batch processing from here. I can batch change statuses or I can batch post. So I'm going to be posting 15 documents. And once I do that, and once they are changed, then my number here is going to diminish. And the reason is because once they are posted, they're not going to show up anymore in my work queue because they're no longer in active status. Does that make sense? Can I get some thumbs up or anything? Some kind of reaction? You guys know that what I'm talking about? Yay. Thanks, Grant.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to keep on moving then. Okay, so that is basically the work queue. And anything, by the way, you can work within the work queue as well, using, for example, the details tab. I can post from inside the details tab. If something is in a pending post, I'll be able, actually, I think these are the ones I just posted. So let me go down here. I can change the status from within the details tab here. I can do all those different actions. If something is happening at the same time, somebody else is working in your docket, sometimes these won't match because they haven't been updated or saved. So if you ever run into that action, that's why. And that's why it's so important for people to have things actually assigned to them, because if it's not assigned to you, then somebody else could be, you could be doing the same work at the same time. So this is really what helps us by doing assignments. This really helps your users not to be stepping on each other's toes. So assignments are really important. But what if you don't have the work queue? You look in there, it doesn't have it, your agency didn't turn it on. What can we do and how can we work within dockets to make assignments? Well, the first thing I'm going to show you is what we talked about with the assignments templates. So I'm going to go to the add document feature or add docket feature, and I'm going to add a new docket. And today I'm going to add a docket that is called assignments template docket. Man, can't spell docket or template apparently. There we go. And it's going to be a non-rulemaking docket. And I'm going to start it in the notice phase. And then I have options here. I have an AA 2011 template, an agency default assignment template. That's going to be the one that always it's defaulted to. But if I wanted to change my assignments template to, for example, the training template, if I did that, then it would go to a different set of users than if I leave it on the agency default assignment template. So I'm going to go ahead and create it here with using my default. And when I do that and go to my assignments template, this is the default for that particular assignments template. So if I went back in and I created another one, this time I'll do a non-rulemaking again, same thing, but this time I'm going to change it. I'm going to put it in the training template test and create that. And let's see who is actually who that default assignment goes to. It goes to the template group. I even have defaults for the different document statuses that are in place. Okay.
How do the agency, I guess, would be the one responsible for assigning that or predetermining that?
Right. And it's determined back when these agencies were onboarded and probably hasn't been looked at since. Right. So what if Kim Kurtner doesn't even work here anymore? And everything's getting assigned to her, but she's not maybe in our region anymore. So I don't want to include her. I can change this one by one. So like I can go in here, I can clear the assignee out and I can add another assignee without a problem. But it makes more sense to me to go ahead and change it at the add docket level and correct my training template. And the only way to do that is through the help desk. So not only, unfortunately, can I not see who's being automatically assigned these until I make the docket itself, but also I can't change it myself. I have to contact the help desk and ask them to please change all the pending posts for the template test group, for the, it's the template test group assignments template to Elias Curry from Kim Kurtner. So that has to be done unfortunately, that has to be done at the help desk level, but I still have the ability to come into my assignments tab and change it here as well. So I can change it. I'm going to make it, I'm going to give this one to Kathleen Turner. I'm going to also make the rule writer Theo Bright. I'm going to change this because Kim, as I said, Kim's not here anymore. I can clear the assignee. I used my shift key, by the way, to select all of those and change them all at once. But I can go in and select a new user for the different statuses because I want all of the statuses when something goes to a do not post, I want those automatically sent to me because I want to check them and make sure that they should be in a do not post. I also want all the deferred ones to go to, Kim's not here anymore, to go to Jackie because she needs to check those. Anything that's in pending post needs to go to Elias because he's a docket manager and he'll be able to post them. So they'll show up in his inbox and his documents. And then anything that's in review, I want to assign that actually to a group of users. So I'm going to go down here to find another person. I'm going to go to group. I'm going to look at all my different groups. I should have a docket manager group, or excuse me, a rule writer group somewhere. Yep. Well, it's not a rule writer. So if I had a rule writer group, which doesn't look like I have, but if I did, I would put them in the rule writer group because that way all of them would get that in their inbox. So all of it, they all get the same ones. So if I am a rule writer then, and I go into my inbox and I know by looking at the optional details that one of these, and these are all going to be assigned to me, but like, let's say that this one was assigned to my group and I want to change it to reassign it to myself, I can do that. And that way nobody else in my group is working on that one. Okay, choose myself and reassign. But unfortunately, as a rule writer, I can only do one at a time. I can't do it in a group like I can if I am at the, if I'm a docket manager or an agency administrator, I can go to the assignments and I can change it all at one time by using these different document status assignee fields. So any questions right now about the templates, the document assignment templates, or the assignments tab, how to use it to change the assigned docket manager to either a different person or a group of people. So this one, the assigned rule writers, and again, the assigned rule writers will show up in their inbox under the dockets, because what I'm doing here is at the docket level. What I'm doing down here is at the document level. And if I need to find a person, I can either use their last name or I can go in and see everybody in my group. Okay. Any questions on those?
So is it true that if a person's assigned the docket, then they would have access to all the documents within that docket, correct?
They don't even have to be assigned to it. For example, let me just hold on a minute. Let me see. So I have 335 dockets assigned to me, but remember there are like 750 some dockets. So right now I do not have docket train 2023-0049. Okay, so train, I don't have to even put the agency in. But 2023-0049, I did do docket, right? All subtypes. I have to make sure I didn't mess anything up over here. Oh, okay. So see, I needed to clear the results from here because I had that date and it wasn't created between that date. It's very important to clear those out.
It was nice that it was saved, but
yeah. All right. So this is not in my inbox. We just saw that, but I am still able to access it. I'm able to look at the assignments. I'm able to change the assignment. I'm going to assign it to myself. I'm the agency administrator right now. I'm going to save that. And I also can go in, I can go to even before I did that though, I could see everything that's inside of it. And if there were actual, comments and things in here, I'd be able to do that, but there aren't. And if I go back here, I now should have 336 or 37 because I added 2 more to my agency because I changed the other one. Remember that group I changed and I was a member of that group. So now I have 337 and these numbers over here do catch up eventually. It just takes them a little time. So I can find, and if I wanted to use my search button, if I click on 10,000, then I will be able to see, for me, every single docket. So I have access to all the dockets in my agency and I just have to click on it, go inside, and I have access to anything that is inside the docket as well. Now, what I can do with it depends on what my role is. If I was an agency administrator or agency viewer, for example, where here I can make a change, they would not have the option to do that. It would be, they wouldn't have a live field. They won't be able to type anything in. They can't change anything. Their drop down menu, like select all on this page or here, those aren't going to exist for them. They basically have static pages where they can just look at things. They can't make any changes. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So now that we have looked at the assignments tab, we have looked at the, when you create a docket, or excuse me, when you create a docket over here, add a docket, the agency default templates, one of them will be a default, the other options will be below if there are other options. Knowing that you have to have an agency administrator, find out who those are given to, or when you create a docket, you'd be able to tell. But making sure that you know who is getting assigned, and if you don't like who is assigned, that you can change that at the docket level, again, using the assignments tab. Here's the assignments tab. I can change things here. Make sure you always save. All right, how are we doing on time here, Grant? We have what, another half hour?
Yeah, about another half hour is good.
Perfect. I do want to show you when you're making the assignments, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna log out and I'm gonna log back in as a rule writer because I want you to be able to see what the rule writers are able to do. Give me 1 second here so I can do that. Got to close it all out. Come back in. Sorry about that. The rule writer. Text here. Okay, I'm a rule writer, so I don't have the FR feed. I also don't have the work queue, even if it is turned on for my agency. You guys have seen that. But I want to show you what the rule writer can do as far as the assignments. So rule writers do not have an assignments tab. So they don't have the option to make large assignments to different people, large numbers of assignments. What they can do, however, is they can change the assignment and make themselves assigned inside the docket, a certain document. So they do have an inbox. Right now, there are 23 dockets in this rule writer's inbox. They've been assigned 23, but remember, let me go in here and change my number to 10,000 and search. The same 574 dockets that were available to me as an agency administrator are also available to this rule writer. What they have to do is just find it and click on it. They can find that, they can access that information. So even if I'm a rule writer, I can find every single docket and I have access to everything inside those dockets. It's convenient to have it in my inbox, and then I have my documents tab, and I have 276 documents in my inbox. And somebody has actually made a do not post. They've in the assignments that were given at the assignment tab level, somebody has put me in charge of the do not post, which is kind of unusual. But you saw what I was doing. I was just kind of like popping people in there. But I have all of these to review. So I can, even though they come from different dockets, because we've got one here from, or a bunch of them here from 2022-0044. And if I keep going, I've got some from 2023-0006. This is a very efficient place as a rule writer for me to find all of the things that are already assigned to me. Now, I mean, I can go into each of these dockets. I can go to the comments tab. And each individual one, I could go in and check to see, is this assigned to me? It's assigned here to the demo group, and I'm a member of the demo group, which means it will show up in my 276 documents. But what I want to do is I want the people in my agency, all the other rule writers, to know I'm taking responsibility for this one. So I am going to reassign it to myself. And so it will remain in my inbox, but it'll come out of all those other members of the demo group's inbox. Same here. We assign this one to myself. So every time I go in to work on one, I'm going to reassign it to myself. And if everybody in my agency does this, then we won't be both reading or reviewing the same one at the same time. And that's what you really want to avoid. You don't want people doing double work. So the inbox, you can also see in the inbox by looking at the optional details, who it is assigned to as well. You can do that for all of these. Any questions on like what your rule writers are going to see when you use that assignments tab and when you use the assignment templates and the work queue? Sorry.
So basically, as a rule writer, they're doing the really reviewing of the comments, the public submissions that are coming in, and they can actually change the status from in review and maybe to pending post to get it to someone else who's ready to post it.
That's exactly right. They cannot go further than pending post, but they can set it to pending post, save it, and then hopefully someone has set it up so that it then comes out of my inbox, because there's no reason for me to have anything in pending post remain in my inbox because I can't post it, right? So you can see probably it's going to be pulled out of there. It's not going to end up staying in my inbox, and because I don't have the ability to post. And I'll tell you right here on this, user must be a docket manager, administrator, or records administrator in order to post. So it's telling me I'm not going to be able to post, and it'll pull it out of there. Let's make sure 0044 is in a pending post. Let me go back and make sure that it went away. Yeah, 0044. So let me just start here at the top so it's an easy one for me to look at. I'm going to change this one from deferred to pending post. Save it. It's gone. And it's gone because it's no longer in an active status for me, but it is in an active status for my rule writer or for my docket manager. And then they can go in and change it.
Makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I need to check out with you guys. Make sure I've hit everything that's on my list. Yeah. All right. I think that is all. I'm going to open it up right now for questions. Does anybody have any questions right now?
Feel free to come off mute, guys. We've got a pretty small group here today. So if you got any questions or hurdles that maybe you've encountered or things that don't make sense to you, please let us know.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to make sure I accidentally shut my notes page. So now I'm going to open it back up and make sure that I didn't miss anything.
I tell you what, Heidi, it's a good thing. Like if I was a rule writer, I would definitely want access to that work queue feature. I would just shove all the work over on your side.
Well, you'd have to be a docket manager to do it. But yeah, if you're a rule writer and you don't want all the work, you got to talk to your docket manager, have them use the work queue. And we want people to use the work queue, of course, to evenly distribute the work. But I guess you could really just, bury somebody if you needed to. You hope you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's not very efficient.
No. All right, good. Yes, I have gotten everything. I just wanted to make sure that I've hit everything that I wanted to hit. So I'm going to flip us back now. Just where is my share screen? Back to my PowerPoint. So I can give you that last bit of information. Okay. So the last screen here is where we are allowing you to, or giving you the information. If you need technical assistance, this is another way that you can reach your help desk. Besides on the home screen, you can go to the bottom and go to contact us and create a ticket there. They love emails as well. Either way, if you get a hold of them, they're very helpful. If you need questions answered by the eRulemaking PMO, they're also very responsive if you send your email to eRulemaking@gsa.gov. We do have a QR code there if you want to take our survey. And if you have been here, and I recognize some of the names, some of you have been here before and you have filled out my survey, and I do appreciate it so much. One of the things that I have to do, and I may have said this in a session you've been in already, but it bears repeating, is I have to give, and Grant too, as he gets as he gives more presentations, we have to give that information, that feedback survey, to the eRulemaking PMO so that they know we're doing our job. They do pop in occasionally, as you saw earlier. We had someone here to just see how we're doing, but it does help when we get feedback from the users, just letting us know how we're doing. And we do appreciate any kind of constructive criticism as well. If you think there's something we could do better, please let us know. One of the things that I just recently changed because of a comment that someone made is that I had set up the registrations to end 2 business days prior to the session. But there was no information on how you could get into the session if you wanted to register or join after that time. And there's no reason you couldn't. I just had it set up that way so that I could make an attendance sheet. So what I've done is I've just now made the registration go right up to the time of the session. No big deal. You can get in, and that way I don't exclude anyone who I wanted to include. So we do absolutely listen to your feedback. Grant has also put it in the chat, and I'll also send it to you all in the follow-up email with the slides, the recording from today, and then I'll also send you your certificate of participation and completion from today. I think we're going to go ahead and turn off the recording now. Thank you all for attending, and I'm going to hang out here for a few minutes and see if we have any questions.